On the 28th of October 1935, a little baby girl was born in Belgium, the first child of Renee and Georgette. She was named Yvette Marie Renee, and her first bed was the drawer of a cupboard. 5 years later, World War II had officially begun, and Renee, a French soldier, was given orders to return to his company, separating him from Georgette, Yvette, now 5, and a 12-month-old baby Yvonne. They were now refugees and needed to flee Belgium, as the Germans were now invading, bombing, and destroying as they went. They came to a town that had been heavily bombed, and Georgette spotted a soldier lying by a wall. She told Yvette to stay in the trench with her baby brother, who was in a pram, and she went to the aid of the soldier. He was injured, so Georgette went and found soldiers to help him, and they in turn took Georgette, Yvette, and Yvonne to where they were stationed. Once there, they fed and bathed them, and the next day, placed them on the last train out of Belgium. On board, a German soldier wanted to take young Yvonne away as they believed he was Jewish, but thankfully a German doctor justified his skin color because he was jaundice. Georgette was no stranger to war, having survived World War I, however her mother died of starvation. Her father, who worked with the resistance and had been injured and jailed numerous times, also died young from shrapnel that moved to his heart. The train took them to a concentration camp near a small village called Bonnac. On entering, you were divided into those who posed a threat, which included all Jews, and the non-threatening. Georgette had the good fortune of being offered work at Bonnac, and they were released from the camp. Bonnac was a small, isolated village that was mostly left alone by the Germans because of its isolated location, and although life was tough, it was reasonably free from the presence of German soldiers. At least until the end part of the war, when the Germans were so desperate for boys and men to fight, they arrived at Bonnac. A German soldier on several occasions told Georgette that she needed to get her children and leave, and after thought, she decided to do so. With the aid of a neighbor, she packed up their things and left for France. They later heard, just days after they left, German soldiers entered the village of Bonnac, and they did a great many horrors to those who had remained. The worst to suffer was a man who was teacher, preacher, and mayor, and Yvette cared for him very much as he was so kind and friendly. The Germans broke both his legs and let their dogs finish him off. Back in France and the war over, the family reunited. Yvette would go to the local hospital and sit and talk or read and write letters for the wounded soldiers. They saved money, and Renee left the family and traveled to Australia, and a year later the rest of the family followed. On the 23rd of October 1931 in Bruay, Nord, France, Victor was born to Joseph and Maria. By 1938 they had 8 children, 7 living and resided at Bruay commune, where Joseph worked in the mine and Maria was a preschool teacher. There is very little information about Maria's family except for one listing in a Jewish concentration camp suggesting they may all have been gassed. In September 1938, Victor's 3-year-old brother died from measles, the second child lost and devastated the father. 1 month later, a knock came at the door to advise that Joseph had died in the mining accident where he was employed. He was only aged 38. The home they lived in was part of a commune only for the workers in the mine. Maria had 6 children and had to send her oldest son, aged 11, to work in the same mine that had killed their father. By World War II, Victor had to work the mine as his older brothers were sent to compulsory military. He worked with the Jewish people held in a camp nearby. He befriended one younger boy and shared his food with him. When World War II ended, Victor was at his home when a motorbike pulled up, and it was the boy from the Jewish camp. He was with his only known surviving family member, his brother, and he brought Victor a gift. He said they had no money but brought him a wind instrument that we still have today. After the end of World War II, the oldest son went to Australia, and once the money was saved, Maria with 3 children followed, and Victor began his compulsory military with the 4th Infantry, 12th Regiment of Dragons as a tank mechanic. Victor had also by age 17 had a diploma in music and was part of the military band. He later was part of the military police, working in areas where there was hostility still with German people. 1955, aged 23, he boarded a ship for Australia to join his mum and siblings. One of Victor's brothers remained in France. He never recovered from losing his wife just 2 years after being married, leaving him with 2 very young babies. She was just 21. Once in Australia, Victor gained employment in the Wollongong mine and pursued his love of music. 1954 saw Victor along with his 3 brothers formed the first Slovenian choir, the Larks, in Wollongong, and Victor was the choir master. In Australia, Yvette's parents had become good friends with Victor's mother. When Victor arrived, Yvette wanted nothing to do with him. She was shy, an introvert, and had spent her whole life looking after her siblings and had no interest in a man. However, as time went on, his charm won her over, and in 1959, they married. There was also an incredibly unique, unbreakable bond that had formed between Yvette and her brother Ivan. While Yvette was forced to mature far before her time, Ivan was her mischievous brother, who thought it fun to run through the inflated fake tanks. One day walking back from school, Yvette recalled a low-flying American plane. He was so low she could see him waving back at her. It then circled around and opened fire on the group of children. Together they found a way to rely and support each other through the often cruel and unbearable horrors of war. At age 5, Yvette's mother would draw a picture of a clock face on paper and tell her when it matched her watch to feed her baby brother. Ivan regarded her more as his mother than sister. Together they faced everything, including in 1951 boarding a ship traveling to an unknown country that spoke a different language. So, Yvette married Victor, and Ivan became Steve, and he married Pam, moved and purchased property side by side at Falls Creek, New South Wales, on Palmer Road, raising their children together, like one big family. While you may think that is the end of their extraordinary story, you are wrong. However, that will be for another time. I hope you enjoyed this story, and thank you.
Ni le bien qu'on m'a fait, ni le mal, tout ça m'est bien égal. Non, rien de rien. Non, je ne regrette rien. Car ma vie, car mes jours